I have a very special episode for you today. I got all your questions. I got like 30 questions from you guys. I cannot answer 30 questions on this podcast, but one theme kept happening in every single one of your questions. And I think I have to break it down, make it real for you guys. I think we're wanting way too much in the start of our career. I think what we don't realize is that in life, and to get anything, you have to do the unsexy thing before you can get any rewards. And when it comes to work, which is a thing that we're spending basically our entire week on, that's not given. That's going to take hard-ass work. And we've all heard the high maintenance to be low maintenance. If you want to look beautiful at 55, you got to put in the work now to look effortless then. It's the same with our careers. We need to think about how are we going to really grind? Are we going to do the unsexy things? Are we going to really actually put our heart and soul and do the stuff that sucks now because we want to live our most fulfilling, best, low maintenance careers in the future, where money comes to us easy breezy, we work a few hours a week, and we love all the parts of what we do. And that, my friend, is a journey. That's not just going to come in your first job. When I was in college, I was not a computer science major, but I knew that I had to learn how to code, teach myself from scratch, literally, as a junior, having basically no experience, because I knew that getting that engineering experience on my resume was going to hold me out for the rest of my career. Now, whenever I walk into a room, they look at my resume, they see that I'm an engineer, they immediately respect me, they immediately take me seriously. Why? Because I actually did something incredibly difficult and I know how to talk to engineers, even though at that moment, I was an engineer. That made me stand out from my peers. It made me get my first product management 6-figure job out of college. When I raised money from investors to start a company, anytime there was any hesitation that I could go build product, I immediately could quell that by saying, you know what? I was an engineer. I know how to build, don't worry. And immediately we actually start talking about the real things. So enough of that. It's time to really dive into your questions. Let's read the first question. She says, I'm unsure what my next career move should be. I consider myself more of a generalist, and I've had diverse experiences in my career journey so far. In some ways, it's nice to be able to do anything, but at the same time, decision-making would be easier if I just had one career I was following. Also, as a generalist, it sometimes feels like all the roles and none at the time are what you're qualified for. I think my feelings are also heightened due to the current state of the job market and constantly seeing people online talk about how they got laid off or their month-long job search journey. Any advice or words of comfort would be appreciated. So let's talk about the generalist role. The generalist role, there's only like a few like real generalist roles. You can be a product manager, pretty general because you're often working with engineers and working with designers and thinking about strategy and thinking about comms and marketing. So very much of a generalist role because you have to be good at a lot of different things, but you don't really need to be an expert at one particular thing. A similar role is called the chief of staff. A chief of staff is like kind of like the admin of a CEO or like a leader at a company, but they're not really doing admin work. They're actually working through strategy and picking up a lot of the legwork of the leader at the company. So very much of a generalist role because on a day-to-day basis, you don't know what you're going to get. But at the same time, this is not like a secretary role where you're like picking up the laundry. Like you actually have to be almost as competent as the CEO to get that job. Another one, which is obvious, is being a founder. Ultimate generalist role of all time because every single day is going to look completely different and you have to navigate through all parts of building the product, marketing the product, actually selling it. So you are just every single job, every single day until you can actually make your first $100,000 and then start to hire people. But anyone who is trying to go for a generalist role early in their career, I'm sorry, but that is a luxury. That's not given. If you're not an expert at anything, you can't just default to saying, you know what, I'm a generalist. That's what I'm good at. I'm good at everything but expert at nothing because that doesn't really fly early in your career. I wanted to be a product manager as my first job. I wanted this exceptional role that only a few companies had, and of the few companies, they were only hiring a few people. So how did I get this job? Well, I literally had to go and learn how to code and get a top tech internship as an engineer to stand out and show that I was an expert in tech and engineering. So how did I actually go and get this coveted generalist role? I literally showed I was an expert at something. Similarly, it's possible that you don't actually get your first job as a generalist role in one of these two things. In fact, product management, chief of staff, being a founder, like these are all things that require just a ton of experience and expertise. So realistically, is it feasible to get as your first job? Probably not. I think I was very grateful. I also worked 3.5 years every single day, optimizing every single thing about my life and about my experience on my resume to get this job. I sacrificed friends. I literally had no life. I didn't go to a single football game or tailgate or frat party for like literally almost all of college to land this role. So yeah, you better be ready for crazy sacrifice over several years, or if you're not going to do that in college, you're going to have to do that. You have to pay that price at some point. Maybe it's just early in your career instead. Maybe you have to actually go spend a few years in industry developing some expertise in a space before you can actually land that coveted generalist role. I know this is not what you wanted to hear, but you have to understand that this idea of kind of being an everything person is a luxury. It is an incredible job on the day-to-day basis. It's so exciting. Like, I literally quit my job to start a company because I didn't like my job, but at the end of the day, I just didn't want a job. Like, my job, I had the dream job. Like, of all the jobs in the world, at all the companies, I think I literally had the best one. Like, I was honestly so happy. Like, everyone was in my team was so supportive, so collaborative. I literally owned a space. I have so much autonomy. I was super creative. Like, how could a job be better when you just graduated? But I was a brat. Like, I just didn't want a job. So for me, like, even though it was the best job I could have, like, I needed to quit to build my own thing because that's just my personality. That's just who I am. And if you really want to get that expertise to lead up to this point in your career where you can actually have that job, but you're feeling right now that you don't have expertise in the specific thing, well, you have to go and get that. And I would take a couple of the things that you feel like you're good at right now and make 3 different resumes that make it look like you're an expert in these 3 different things. And you're going to have to like fluff up the numbers and like add side projects to it to make you look like you're competent in that role. Do not apply to all these jobs with a resume that shows you do 10 different things that are not related to the job. That is a myth. The more things on your resume is not better. It's just distracting, and it makes the person who's hiring you feel like you are distracted and you are unfocused. Okay, I'm moving on to question number 2 because I think you get the point. Okay. I love my career as a software engineer, but I've been struggling with it lately. I've been working full-time out of college for about 4 years now, and I have been at 2 companies since. At both these companies, I've experienced many instances of microaggressions and passive-aggressive sexism from my male coworkers as the youngest and only female on the engineering team. Like I said, I love being a SWE, but being in these male-dominated work environments where stuff like this happens all the time is starting to weigh down on me and make me hate my job. I've been thinking of quitting for the longest time to pursue my passion projects, but at this point, I'm starting to hate the smallest things like waking up to attend stand-up every morning or even sending an email. I'm 99% sure I'm super burnt out, but I don't know what to do. I love software engineering, just not the work environment. Please help. My very first thing I want to say is that you are so real for saying this, because I think a lot of the times as women, when we are in these environments, we don't speak up because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to complain that you're the only girl on your floor. It's embarrassing to complain that you don't really want to hang out with 5 gross dudes every single day for lunch. Like, you just kind of say, whatever, this is my work. I have my friends, it's separate, it's fine. And then it starts to eat at you and it starts to just bother you. You're like, where are my people? And work is just so much of our lives. I'm not even gonna begin to tell you how many times I've been the only girl on my team. I've been in tech for 10 plus years now. I grew up in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley. Being in spaces where I was the only girl was, it was more common than I actually hung out with my girlfriends. I literally feel like sometimes I get along better with dudes because I have had so much experience being around them all the time. It's so normalized. I literally go into a networking event. I walk into a co-working space because I'm in SF right now, and I literally have a jolt of surprise and shock whenever I see another woman there. And it's great, but it's exhausting. And yeah, likely you're very burnt out. It's exhausting having to put that face every day to really show up in these environments where you're not even able to be 100% yourself. That is real. It has nothing to do with the people on your team being bad. Maybe they're bad. I don't actually know your team. But most of the time, the people on your team are not bad, and they're trying their best to be inclusive and include you. But I just want to say one thing. I want to say that I do not think you should give up software engineering for this. That would be the worst. If you actually found something you love, which I know a lot of you guys are listening and thinking, dang, I don't know what I love. This girl, she found it. She figured out what she loved. We're all sitting here desperately trying to find something that gives us any sort of joy. So you have something that's so special. Please do not give up engineering. The answer that I'm about to tell you, the advice I'm about to tell you, like you're not going to want to hear it. Just like I said before, is you gotta have to suck it up and you have to stay there. You got to do it for all the women in tech. You got to do it, and you got to bring other women there with you. You got to do the work to do that. No one is going to do that. I think you can leave, because if you're feeling so terribly, like staying there is just going to be unproductive and it's going to be really bad on your mental health. So you can leave. What you can look for is teams that have female leadership, because I was in a team at my old job where there was this really strong, incredible female leader. All the teams under her were super gender balanced because she just genuinely cared about it. And I think naturally, probably unconsciously, got along better with more women in these interviews who, like, we all know that women and men are like equally competent. Like, neither are more or less competent. A lot of these things are systemic biases, and also they come from like early educational biases and like how this ends up resulting this way, right? So we all know this. Like, I'm not going to sit and harp on this right now, but it's like really hard to tell you to just like leave your job and go find another one, especially in like this economy. Like, I just feel like that is just a very scary thing to do, and I can understand why you might not want to go do that. So I kind of feel like you got to bring another girl with you on your team. You got to hire them. You got to like push your manager to go hire another woman so that you have some sort of support there. You got to do the work. And if you bring another woman on your team, guess what? It's going to make it a lot easier for the next woman to join, because they're not going to feel what you're feeling. So I know it's not the answer you want, but do it for the girlies. Fight through this right now. Bring other women with you on the team. You can possibly like change the culture at this company forever. Like, especially if the company's not that big enough, how many more women is going to take before it's actually gender balanced? Maybe a lot, maybe like 10, 20, 30, whatever. But every time you bring a new one in, it just makes it easier and a better experience for the next woman to join. Okay. Question 3. Let's get into it. As a college student, I have found some really amazing communities to be a part of, and I love seeing the impact passionate people can make on the world, but I feel like it has been really hard to find what my passion is. I think there are so many different ways to make an impact, but I'm still struggling with finding which one is right for me, since there are so many great paths and people to learn from. And let me say, like 90% of the questions that I got were about, girl, how do I find my passion? And it's hard. Finding your passion is like the most complicated thing. Like, I feel like I've been kind of searching for it like 15 years now. Like, I remember when we were juniors in college and like we were about to be seniors and you had your first like college counselor appointment. They're like, so what major do you want to apply to? And like my entire body like fell in shock while I was like, well, I could do math, or like I could do science, or like art would be cool, or like I don't all of them. And you're just like frozen in panic. Like, how the heck in one decision, one check mark on an app, I'm going to pick the major that's going to determine my entire life, what I do from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday? Well, good thing, as we all know now, it doesn't actually work like that. It's like a little bit more chill. But I remember that moment thinking like, oh my God, if I mess this up, like everything's ruined. I ended up actually like getting into the Ivan Young Academy, which was a degree in art, tech, and business. The ultimate like nothingness major of, okay, you're basically everything. So I felt like so much joy. I was like, oh, I don't have to pick whatever. But I remember when I was applying to apps, one school would be like math, one school would be like art, one school would be like the engineering school. Like, I just literally, every school, a different major, because I was like, oh, this is the best way to like leave it to the universe to decide what I want to do. Bad strategy. Don't do that. That was not advice by any means. But I just want you to say that you're supposed to spend your entire life finding your passion. Like, it's not supposed to be something you just check off on an application and then that's your purpose. That's what you're going to do. Like, I don't understand why our education system is built around this idea of like making consequential decision, I would say, and then not really having any sort of moment in college or moment after college where someone sits and asks you like, hey, like, did you pick the right major? Like, do you think you're on track? Like, are you excited by this? Are you happy by this? Like, there are no checkpoints. You have to put those checkpoints in for yourself. I think that's really the key. I think the key is to be really open-minded about lots of different possibilities and try them and experiment and explore. But I think the key to this is not just, oh, I tried this, like, lackadaisically. No, you have to give it your all. You have to give it everything when you try something. No half-assing. Like, there is no way to accurately vet how you feel about something and what the future of that looks for you unless you literally give your entire soul into this. When I was recruiting for software engineering roles, I literally dreamt of code in my sleep. Like, I was coding all day, all night in my dreams. And I did this every single day for 4 months. I really, really gave it my all. And then I full sent in my internship. I literally worked 4 or 5 hours after work doing more, trying to get my code cleaner, trying to impress my manager, and trying to get more projects. And then I ended that internship and all that time really like making a lot of projects in school to prep for those interviews, and was like, yep, it's not for me. But you know what? When I said it wasn't for me, I was so sure. I was 100% sure. It was full closure. You know what it was? Everything that happened in that moment, like, it is never wasted time because it only makes you stronger and like literally more intelligent, and there's more that you can offer on your table. Like, you have so much that you value from that experience. So that is never going to be wasted time. But then when you realize, when you know, you've given it your all and you know it's not for you, let it all go. Let it all go. Do not cling on to it. You have to move on. You have to really just go to the next thing. And this is what you guys all mess up. You guys all mess this up because you think, well, I've invested so much time and I'm already so deep into here. Like, it's too scary to start from scratch again. I felt what it was like to start from zero, and it sucked, and it's hard, and you really have to work for it. I can't do it again. And then what if I'm wrong again? Then I have to do it again? And I know that's so scary, but that is the only way to get there. Like, I will say this a million times in this episode. Like, nothing is for free. Everything takes a lot of hard work. If you want something phenomenal, if you want to love your job, you want to feel passion every single day, yeah, you're going to have to work. You gotta work for it. It takes a long time. So I think that's really, you gotta just iterate on that loop. So be unafraid to let things go. But when you are trying something, even if it sucks and you hate it, don't half-ass it. That is how you are going to be unable to go and move on to the next iteration and get closer to what that passion is. There's actually this Huberman podcast, and I know you guys know that I'm obsessed with Huberman. I literally listen to every single episode, but he did a podcast episode with Robert Greene on finding your purpose. And I feel like he really tackled the question from a very like philosophical yet scientific place. Really makes us understand how we as human beings work and like our fundamental motivations in life, and how we can actually channel these very intuitive biological things that we feel into our passion, into finding that, into ultimately like doing the thing in the world that we were meant to do. Another tactical tool that I recently learned from one of my good friends is called Odyssey planning. And I've never done this, but I really wish that I'd done this in college when I was trying to figure out what I was doing, and I wouldn't have like skipped around and hopped so much. But it's called Odyssey planning. You can Google, there's like worksheets on it, but you basically make 5 alternate 5-year plans of what your life could look like depending upon what you pursue. Okay. Next question. I'm definitely feeling lost as far as what I should do next for my career path. I consider myself to be a problem solver and creative at heart, but I have a lot of trouble finding a specific title that feels right. The job titles are always just a little off from what I'm interested in and qualified for. I would love to be innovating and making a difference, but entry-level positions do not seem to have these opportunities. I know there could be some really meaningful startups out there that could be a good fit, but all the saturation in the job search is too difficult to dial into something that I could actually see myself doing. I think this really goes back to what I said earlier is I really think you're being too hard on yourself. Like, you're not supposed to know what you're doing in the early years of your career. Like, you're supposed to be confused and lost. Like, I feel like on paper I had everything a girl could want, a 6-figure job. Like, I had so much autonomy but I wasn't happy. Like, I was more lost than ever before because you know how confusing it is to get the thing that everyone wanted and then you don't want it? You know how hard it is to let that go because you think you're supposed to want it? And I really feel like there's way too much expectation that we're supposed to just like totally figure this out immediately. And I really feel like it's what I said before. It's like your career is iterative, so you're going to have to be patient with that process to really get to the thing that you really want to do. I think like one thing that you said in your question that I feel like is worth pointing out is that like you're considering startups and you don't really know like what kind of startups you could join or like how you could actually like find that passion at a company. Maybe it's not even startups. My hot take is that I don't think you can truly deeply like find your passion at another company. I kind of feel like the best way to do the thing that's like most authentic to yourself, that you're most passionate about, is your own thing. But it comes with the biggest trade-off of all time, which is you're not going to be paid a lot of money for a very, very long time. And it comes at the cost of like truly mental anguish and heartache because you're going to fail a lot. You're going to fail a lot more than you would fail in your 9-to-5 job. So I'm not sitting here saying that only way to truly love what you do is to be an entrepreneur. Like, there are some people who like love their job and can find that. But I will argue because you're reliant on someone to hire you, it is just a lot more out of your control on the nuances of like what your day-to-day looks like and what you pursue and how you actually get paid, right? And how much you get paid. So I think that's just something to think about right now. But I also think if you lower expectations in finding the perfect thing in your job. And maybe you build a perfect life. Maybe you don't have a perfect job. Like that kind of feels like something more attainable. So maybe you want to be like a problem solver and you're creative, but maybe at your job you don't feel like you're that creative. You're mostly just problem solving. Well, how can you be creative outside of your job so that you feel whole? When I was a product manager in my first job, I was actually running Genshi on the side, and I was doing it a couple hours at night or on the weekends, and it really helped with feeling more whole. I think at some point, like I just needed a lot more, which is like why I'm in this position that I am today, but for a long time, that really did work. And so maybe explore that. Maybe explore like not how can I find the perfect job, but how can I build a perfect life that feeds all parts of me, right? So maybe after work, you're doing a lot more creative things and things that they don't maybe make you money, but that doesn't mean they don't give you joy and meaning and purpose. And maybe it does help people too, you know? I really feel like that is something to think about, and really think about the fact that I don't know what stage you are in your career, but if you're early, like again, like doing the thing that's like less creative, less fun, more, you know, formulaic, like that's just a rite of passage, girl. Like if you stick with it, you're going to get more autonomy later. You're going to be in more of a leadership position where you're going to actually have that creativity. So I think like really don't have so much expectations right now. At the end of the day, if it really feels like in your job you're not getting what you want, go get a new one. Like that is also the best way to get paid more. I know it's scary to go get a new job, but everyone is capable of doing it. If you got this job, you can get another one. And it's going to be better because you're only smarter and wiser and you know more about the world now. So it's only going to be something bigger and better, right? Last question. This one's a little spicy, but very practical and very real. And I'm sure this happens all the time. And I feel like the nuances and how to tackle this is very important. So listen up, girlies. The question is, how do you force a decision on a hypothetical job without the leverage of another offer? Right? So think about it. You have this interview with this person and it went well. They didn't say no, but they didn't say yes. They're kind of like putting you in limbo mode. They're like lingering. It's kind of that fuckboy in college who like leaves you unread but doesn't actually formally reject you. And you're kind of like waiting around for him to show up. Yeah. Toxic. We don't love that. Just like we don't love the boys doing that to us, like we do not love the companies doing that to us. The reality of the situation is the reason why they haven't given you a job offer yet and they're not continuing more interviews is they probably don't think you're the best fit for the job. They're probably waiting around for someone better, but like at the end of the day, they haven't found anyone at all, so they don't want to formally reject you yet. That's the reality of the situation. Here's basically like two ways it's going to pan out for you. One, they're going to like put you in limbo mode and linger and stall you until they find someone better and you're not going to get the job. Or they're never going to find someone and they're going to give you an offer eventually, but my prediction is they'll probably just not hire you and just not fill the role at all. Because if they're not giving you an offer, there's something about it that they feel unconfident about. And so it's just really hard for a company to justify a salary for someone, especially because of the way founders and companies operate, especially at early stage, like blood, sweat, tears, oh my God, cannot speak anymore. Blood, sweat, tears to get every dollar in the bank account. So if you're gonna take some of that, you better be the perfect candidate. Here's what I would do. Now, this is not necessarily, like, you might not agree with this, but what I would do is I would say, hey, I need an answer by insert X date. You don't have to say what that other offer is you have. You say, I'm interviewing at multiple companies. They're all giving me closure, and I have multiple, like, situations I have to pick from. You just be vague. But you know what you're not going to be vague about? Give me an answer by this date. I want it by this Friday, or I want it by next Monday. Give them a hard deadline. They don't have a hard deadline for themselves. Force it on them. Obviously, if you had another offer, you just wave that offer in their face and they like immediately come around to giving you your offer and you could even negotiate better. But like if you don't have that, you don't have that. You know, that's a reality situation. What I would not do is let them keep you in limbo mode and like let them linger, because that's actually the most likely chance that you actually never end up getting the job, because you're giving them way too much opportunity to actually fill it with someone else that they find who's better. At least by giving a deadline, you make it much harder for them to find someone that's better than you. Does that make sense? So try that strategy. Let me know how it goes. At the end of the day, we don't want to work for a company who doesn't want us. I know that sounds ridiculous. We just want to get paid out here. But this is something that you're going to show up to every single day. You're going to talk to these coworkers every single day. And at any point that you're not a good fit, they also have the ability to lay you off or fire you. So you probably want to work at a place where you have a chance of succeeding for a long time, because we're not trying to have to get a new job like every 3 months, right? Like that's not the plan. So those are all the questions I'm going to answer today. As someone who is not there yet, like I'm not successful yet, I haven't figured out all my dreams and passions, like I have a long way to go. I'm working so hard. I've worked so hard. Every time I got a new job, I'm literally pivoting roles fully. Like I'm literally starting from scratch. Guess what? I literally have all this industry experience in tech. I'm not even building a tech company. Like I'm building a media company. Do you think I know anything about media or creating content or how it works or how the business is? No, I know nothing. I'm literally, again, classic, just fully from scratch again. From zero, from rock bottom, but guess what? It's so worth it because I know so much more than someone who's done one job or one career. I guarantee you that there's a big reason why I haven't really explored media and content creation as much as I am now, because I wasn't exposed to it. But if I wasn't exposed to something, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be good at it, or that I can't be good at it, or that I won't love it more than anything I've ever been exposed to, right? So that's another key aspect of what I said earlier, which is like I'm allowing myself to be so open-minded about any direction I could possibly go in. And in this moment of being open-minded, in this moment of trying media, I'm giving it my all. If it's wrong, I could be wrong. I'm not sitting here saying media is the it. And like maybe when I say I'm 99% close, maybe this is my last iteration. The next thing I do after media is the thing that sticks. And it's completely unrelated. Like I just have this feeling, like this intuition that I'm really, really close. Whether or not media is it or not, I'm going to give it my all. And that's what's important, is that you're trying your best and that you're loving the journey because you're embracing the journey as it's just a rite of passage. It's what I have to do. It's how I be high maintenance to be a low maintenance career girly who has a rich, loving, amazing, fulfilling life in the future. I'm so excited for you girlies. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Lots of love.